Welcome everybody to Laneway Talks, and today we're talking to Miljoen from Violetine, one of the Laneway artists, and we're going to have a bit of a chat about his background in music, where he came from, where he's been and where he's going now, as he's still a very prolific and very involved musician. Sean, how are you?
Well, Vincent, how are you going?
I'm good. We start off our interviews, Sean, with just talking about where you grew up and was that in Melbourne or was it interstate or overseas?
Yep, I grew up in Melbourne, in Brighton.
And
went to school around there.
Did you get involved in music in an early age, or were you more a late bloomer?
No, my family's quite musical. My grandfather was actually a professional guitar player.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my auntie was a guitar teacher. So she gave me my first guitar when I was about 5.
Well, it doesn't get any better than that.
No, which I automatically played left-handed, but everyone made me spin it round the other way. And so, mate, I might actually be a left-hander, I don't know. But everyone told me I had to do it the other way because I was given a right-handed guitar. So,
well, if that was the case then, did you get lessons?
Yeah. They had lessons at primary school, and then I had a lady that used to come to my house every week.
Yeah, you've got that going from an early age.
Yeah.
What kind of flavour of music are you getting into, or is there no real flavour of music at this stage?
No,
it's just music.
I was just obsessed at that stage with all the glam stuff, the Sweet, Gary Glitter, Elvin Stardust, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, there's a
name. I still love it.
That's a great name, Elvin Stardust.
Elvin.
Well, I can say to everybody that I was putting together a Night Moves DVD, and we had some Elvin Stardust footage, and I approached Elvin Stardust to put some
in the black leather.
Yeah, to put. Well, I found we had these just terrific songs, and I approached him, overseas to. Could we put them on there? And, under no circumstances. Whereas Peter Frampton was a different guy. He wanted it on there.
Yeah.
Alvin Stardust, there was no discussion. But what an artist.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So, okay.
And then along came Susie Quattro, and I was just one of the biggest crushes of my life. I used to have her posters around my wall. I slept with Can the Can under my pillow for ages.
Yeah, yeah. So, but interestingly, let's think about the music there too of Susie Quattro. So you are talking a 12-bar blue, essentially. And it's that, and she never really moved away from that. It resonates right through her music. But
it was the edge she put to it.
Yeah, because that's not you. Because there is no doubt about Sean Miljoen, and we'll get to it later, has a very unique sound. And I'll explore that a little bit later, as my opinion. So you've got that happening, but you haven't got a band yet then. So what are we talking, 10 to 15, that age bracket?
Yeah, we had a band at primary school when I was about probably 10, and we were called the Steel Machine.
Oh, yeah.
And we played a couple of shows at primary school.
Yeah. So where did you go to from there?
I went to high school where we had a Sex Pistols cover band.
Oh, okay. So we're talking like 77, 80?
Yeah, that was like 79, 80.
Yep. So it's all kind of happening, yep.
And then once I saw the Sex Pistols, that's why the 12-bar went. So, even though they had those sort of rock and roll roots, but when I discovered the Sex Pistols, it was sort of that where have you been all my life moment.
Well, that's right. I mean, if I see where you've come from and I go through the first artist you mentioned, then you get to Susie Quattro, then you get to the Sex Pistols, and essentially I found music. The first time I found music, probably 73. 74 was Kiss, the first album, and then it became...
Yeah, I love Kiss.
Then it became the second...
1980.
Did you? Well, I know. I remember the tour.
First ever gig.
Yeah, I remember that tour.
First show I ever went to.
That was with the new drummer, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was Sad Wings of Destiny, Judas Priest, which was their second album. But and I kept in this flavour. That was my kind of flavour right through. But if I look...
I never listened much to them.
No, well, see, then I never did later on because they became that real metal, which I don't particularly like so much. But I have a look at where you're going. You're actually experiencing and liking quite a diverse range of music there, and then moving to the Sex Pistols, which always has an effect on your playing, I think. It's the creative juices that get educated through what you're listening to, and yours is actually quite diverse. So you're going to the Sex Pistols, so you're at high school and you're discovering, all that kind of stuff, and you've got a band going, a covers band.
Yeah, we had a bit of it. Yeah, 'cause we just used to play Sex Pistols covers all the time.
So what happens after that? Do you say, oh, I want to become a professional musician, or?
No, I had a father that wouldn't ever allow that. To become a professional musician. That was, just to be a hobby.
Yeah.
Until the day years and years later when, he saw us playing in Sydney at the, I can't remember what massive venue up there. And then after that, it was all, what are you doing with your music? It took, took that long for him to come around.
Well, okay. So what did you do from high school? What did you
From
do?
high school, my sister played keyboards, so I had a band with her and a guy called Nick Green who ended up playing for a Melbourne band, Helvellyn. I don't know if you remember them.
No, I remember them. Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah.
But what are you doing for work, though? Are you going to uni? Are you going to school? Or
no, I got politely asked to leave school, and I
would never have thought from you, sure. Being one of the nicest guys I know.
That was my misguided youth.
Yeah. So what happens? What are you doing?
I start just doing odd jobs as carpentry, which led to a carpentry apprenticeship.
Oh, okay, builder, right?
Yeah. So did that all the way along.
So during that, what are we talking now? 15 to 20, that age bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're becoming a builder, but you're still playing music in a band with your sister.
Yeah, playing music, and I'm playing, and then my Nick, who played with Helvellyn, he had a cover band on the side called Lord Jesus and the Swiss Cheeses.
Right, that's a beauty. Yeah, go on.
And we played Creedence, Rolling Stones, all the 60s revival sort of stuff. And oddly enough, our singer-bass player, his name was actually John Fogarty.
Oh, yeah, very funny. That's good. So that's what you're doing there. But have you written any original material by that stage?
I'm writing original material all the way along while I'm doing this. But once I played with the cover band, that really, live forays into playing live stuff previously had just been a bit of a disaster, horrible PAs and singers that were, too nervous to perform and all that sort of thing.
Essentially honing your skill, really, because you start to see all the mistakes that are made so you don't make them later on, yeah?
That's right. So the cover band, which we'd have massive crowds and, have some really good, we used to play Sunday afternoons down at Chapel Street and had a few different clubs we played at. Yeah, so that got the live thing, got me really confident and wanting to do the live thing. Well, before I just been...
Well, what I asked there, the more technical question, is because I know what kind of guitars you use now, because I find them a little bit out there. And what were you playing guitar-wise back then?
Good question.
Les Pauls, Fenders?
I've always had a Les Paul.
Yeah.
I've always had a couple of Les Pauls.
Yeah.
But I bought this one called an Aria Pro 2.
Les Paul.
A bit of an...
Yeah.
No, it was just it was like a different version of a Strat.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what you're leaning towards at that stage, yeah?
Well, that's what it had humbuckers on it, and that's why I bought it. But
yeah, gotcha.
It was a bit of a daggy guitar, looking back on it.
Yeah.
But I like the Fender shape better.
Yeah. So okay, and
which led me to the Jaguars, which is all I play now.
Don't you find that interesting? How individual musicians, and I ask the question all the time. Why do you play a Fender instead of a Gibson? And the wide, diverse answers I get really freak me out because it's from the look to the pickups to the neck.
My hands aren't huge.
Yeah.
And the Gibson necks are quite like baseball bat, I find them, a little bit sort of chunky.
Yeah.
But I like the sound of the humbuckers. So once I could find a guitar that had the sort of thinner neck and also the sound of the Gibson, then I was sort of stuck with that.
That was it. Yeah. And I mean, I think too that were you developing that sound that you have now, and because for everybody listening, Violetine were a trio, which is kind of rare, and to be able to play in a trio and fill the sound out is extremely unique, and you had that ability to from your guitar, from the six string as opposed to the bass. To fill that sound right out, I mean, you're doing your lead breaks and all that, but outside of that, you always delivered a big sound, but that had to be honed, and it's a skill set. So you're obviously honing that kind of sound, but not with covers, because then covers are covers, correct?
No, that's correct.
Yeah.
My first paycheck when I was finished my apprenticeship, first week, I bought a Marshall amp, and that's something I'd always wanted, and then that started the sort of sound that just continued on to now, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at the. Do I say we're at the end of the?
At the end.
Yeah, the cover band.
At the end of the cover band, because in the last few weeks the cover band played, some guys that lived in Punt Road who were looking for a guitar player came down that a friend had mentioned. Yeah. Then that's when I started with them. Yeah. We had so many names, it's ridiculous, but that's what started us playing at the Punters Club and round Fitzroy, and it was all original. Yeah. So was it? Yeah, go on. Well, the thing for that was actually, I don't know if you know of Rob James. There was actually, after Countdown, there was a show called Countdown Revolution. Yeah, I remember Countdown Revolution. And it was hosted by James Young and Rob James. Yeah. Okay, and Rob was our singer. Yep, gotcha. Guy with the belt buckle as big as a dinner plate. All right. So you were the guitarist, not the singer. I was the guitarist. That's right. And he had the look and the connections and everything, but there was we played a few gigs with him singing, and then he didn't like what we were doing. We didn't like what he was doing. So did you know that you could sing, Sean, at that stage? I couldn't sing. You couldn't sing. So you weren't singing in the cover band. So it wasn't something that you go, no. Right. So what's going on then? So what happens when he goes? I'd always written my own songs, but I hadn't really put them to anyone and then tried to sing them. So with that band was the first time that I sort of said, "Well, try some of my songs, and then I'll try singing them." Who's in the band? A guy called Benny Roney, who actually owns a nightclub on the Gold Coast now. He used to own 161 in Chapel Street. Well, he sounds like a DJ, Benny, doesn't he? Drummer DJ Benny, and there was Cal Orr, who sadly passed away, and he was pretty well known in music. He used to manage the Foves, Snout. He'd done a lot in music. Interestingly, I would plug you guys into that flavour of those bands too. Yeah. Yeah. So obviously there was a bit of a and who else? Anybody else? No, just a very drunken bass player who we had to sack. Oh, really? Yeah. So that's come to an end. You know, the singer's gone. You're not quite happy. What are we doing? Are you know? I sang my first gig ever. There used to be a pub down Punt Road that's not there anymore, underneath the overpass, down at Richmond. Hold on. I know that. That was the old hotel on the corner there. I remember going to see Taste there and and the like. Yeah, I know it really well. Yeah. So that was your first gig. Cold? I was going to say the water. It wasn't the water. No, it wasn't. No. But I do. That was my first. Yeah, first singing gig, and that was supporting Phil Parra. Remember Phil Parra? Yeah. But hold on, why did you sing though? What did you do? Did you just go to rehearsal and go, look, give me a try? Yeah, I just said, give me a go. Yeah, and then you go, I actually don't sound too bad. I'm going. Well, I didn't sound that good, but I went and had lessons, and I really tried hard at it. Yeah, I didn't think I was all that natural at it. Right. So I just have my own sort of way. But so who's in that band where you start singing? That's the same guys. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And so how long does that go on for? It goes on for a few years, but we played one night. We got a residency at the Richmond Club Hotel in Swan Street. Yeah. Opposite the corner. Yeah. So we used to play there. And any time a band would drop out or whatever, they'd ring us and we'd just always go down and play because everyone lived nearby. How good's that? It was good and bad sometimes. Yeah. But one night we played there and there was a band supporting us called Politeness Man. And that had Glenn Lewis, who's from Violetine. Yeah. And who now plays with Mick Harvey. Yeah. And Steve Leicester, who was Violetine's drummer. And we arrived and walked in and there was this band and they sounded unbelievable. And we went, oh my God, we've got to go on after these guys. And they had all these people there. It's not one of their first gigs. It's not a nice feeling, is it? No, it was their first show, so it was just packed, and everyone was just going crazy. And we were like, "Oh, great!" Yeah. And we went on because we, had played there a lot, so not many people had come and see us. So everybody had left after they played, did they? Well, they were all just going everyone went for a drink in the front bar, and a
it.
couple of people watched us, but the band loved us.
Yeah.
And that was the night that I met Glenn Lewis.
Okay.
And he really liked what we did, and I thought they were fantastic. So
were they a three-piece band?
Yeah.
They were.
They were three-piece.
Isn't it interesting? Yeah. So he actually had this affinity for a trio, yeah?
Yeah, but he was the guitar player. He's a really good guitar player as well.
Well, I didn't know that, because I consider him a really good bass player.
He's an incredible bass player, but he was just as good a guitar player.
Sweeps, okay.
But he always just used to say, let's have a jam, I'll play bass.
Yeah.
He said that for ages, and then one day we did.
Yeah.
And then that was the start of Violetine.
So that was it. You said, ditch those guys, let's start this band. And you ditched your guys.
What actually happened was we had a few Sunday sessions, and it sounded great. Glenn just borrowed a friend's bass. He didn't even have bass guitar. We borrowed an amp, and the jam sounded really good. So I paid for us to go to Hot House and just do some songs.
Yeah, was that with Craig Harness?
Craig was actually with Craig's assistant, and Craig was very nice and gave us the place for next to nothing.
Yeah. And
Craig's assistant recorded us, and I paid for it.
Yeah.
So we still had the other bands going, but then I started shopping it around.
Yeah.
And we decided to play a few gigs, and really quickly we got picked up by Mushroom.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, when you're hot, and that's that.
We got signed really quickly. It all happened quite quickly, and we weren't in. We still had our other bands going. So,
well, it was a big. Don't you agree? It was a big sound for three guys. It was. You delivered a big sound, and the ability to deliver the big sound, and then actually, and I'm talking live because we can do what we want in the studio. And then also deliver the lead breaks in there, and it still kind of sounded big, and that's difficult to do.
I changed my lead to not being so much a lead break as having more notes, sort of, like almost picking sort of breaks in there.
Yeah.
So that it didn't sound empty when I wasn't playing.
And I mean, those guitars of yours were bloody big sounds. So big sounds from those guitars. And so I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's not essentially just a lead break. It's actually intertwined.
Yeah. Because I remember when the day it all changed when I was doing that demo, I actually had done one particular song, and I'd done like a lead break like I would have used to have done.
Yeah.
And I went, that sounds a little bit not only dated, it's not suiting the music. I'll try this sort of note picking sort of break, and I went, wow, that worked really well, and then that became my thing.
Yeah, and I think I know exactly what you're saying because I can listen to it in my head going, yeah. So
using multiple strings at one time and that sort of thing, rather than just the picking out notes holding them.
Well, because if you think of Rush being the quintessential trio, but they do the specific lead breaks.
That's right.
It's a different sound altogether. Therefore, you're picked up by Mushroom. So things are going pretty good. I mean, you must be going, oh, we're on our way. I think I don't
think I've ever been as excited as when that happened.
Yeah. And I remember supporting you once at the first, was at the Prince of Wales.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, these guys sound absolutely fantastic. And
we always used to request the Fly Charmers.
Yeah, well, and someone said, they're signed to Mushroom, and I go, well, I can hear why. And so tell me, how long did it take you to start building an audience? Because I remember seeing playing with you at the Gershwin Room, and there must have been 500 people in there.
Yeah, I guess once we had Triple J started playing songs that could go nationwide, then we just started, touring as much as we could. And then when you just noticed the power of, the national radio station, we're going anywhere we wanted, and pretty exciting the first time you see someone sort of mouthing the words to your songs and coming along just to see you and that sort of thing.
Did you have to think much about, or did you never get to that point where you had to think about your whole stage show and what you were delivering, or was it more that, no, we just get on stage and we play?
Yeah, it was more just get on stage and play.
Yeah. And it was that indie, I mean, look, I might not be right. I'll probably still put you in that indie Detroit scene and all that kind of stuff, but you might go, no, it's different. But it was just go on and play. It wasn't about having theatrics or a stage set.
No, we were very anti. We were very anti that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's to your own detriment. I've done a lot of things that are probably to my own detriment, but people would always tell me that I didn't speak enough on stage, and that, we could do this and we could do that. And it's like, well, just listen to our music. That's all we wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a bit about the trials and tribulations of Violetine, because it is trials and tribulations. You could write a book on it. It's a 101 in the music business. What happens and what goes wrong?
Probably listening to other people a lot. Was, like by the time our first album came out and we'd done all that work, I think that the time I really noticed it was when we did New Year's Eve at the Falls Festival one year. I think it was maybe 97.
I think we played on the same show, but we played obviously a lot earlier.
Yeah, well, we played, sort of lunchtime, a bit after or something like that.
Yeah.
Then we went back New Year's Eve the following year, and we filled one of the tents there, and we were like, wow. That was the first time I noticed a real difference in what was happening.
Yeah.
We had all the momentum behind us, and I was like, that was, I actually felt after that show that we were really doing something.
Yeah.
Just because we knew everyone had actually come in to see us, and we had a great time slot, and then it sounded great.
And did you have management, or were you managing yourself?
I was managing us.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's also one of our downfalls.
Well, it can't look. No, Sean, it can be and it can't be. I mean,
no, it was when we actually got a manager. I'm saying.
Oh yeah, because a lot of bands I talk to, my problem is I'm too honest.
Yeah.
And
you sure? Yeah, you can be, but that's
well,
I think that's
managers. It's so hard to find an honest manager.
Yeah.
It just goes skew. If so, all right, let's keep on the trials and tribulations of Violetine. So what's happening?
So our debut album got done, and that was coming out, and Mushroom hadn't re-signed us. We were signed for a couple of EPs and an album.
Yeah.
And as our debut album was coming out, there were other bands that Mushroom was signing. I don't know if you remember a band called Finiscad.
I remember Finiscad very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always use them as a comparison because we were like given $30,000 for our budget, and they were this new act that no one had ever heard of, and they were given like $250,000.
Yeah.
And
never went anywhere either, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, they didn't, and that's the thing. We ended up with, our album did a lot better, and we were like, well, we feel like we're being sort of ripped off a little bit here with this sort of attention, but we've done all this work. We're unsigned, and Sony heard about that, so then they came along and they've offered us a contract, and then a sort of bidding war started between them and Mushroom.
Isn't that incredible that you have to get to that stage, and it's your career, and all of that's going on, and it, time's just ticking every day that goes on, right? So who wins the bidding war?
Sony, because Michael Kavinsky actually flew to Sydney and surprised us we didn't know that he was arriving. We got asked to go out to dinner because we were saying goodbye to the Mushroom people.
Yeah.
And Michael actually arrived, and we're like, oh God, and he'd actually come and to try and talk us out of going with Sony.
Yeah.
And I'd met him before, but just briefly, and he sat down, he just, sort of, told us his case, why we thought we should stay. And I said, well, look, to be honest, this is the first time that you've actually paid attention to us, is when we're going. And he said, you got to understand, Sean, this is big business, and this is what happens in business. And I just thought, in hindsight, he was probably right, but at the time we just thought, well, we'd rather go with someone that thinks that we're going to go further than we are now, rather than someone that's trying to hang on to us.
Did you meet Dennis
and
Hanlon?
Done much. I did.
Was Dennis involved in trying to get you across?
No, he wasn't there at that time, but when we signed with him, he was there.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
He'd actually disappeared for a while.
Yeah. Oh, look, I mean, whatever we know about Dennis, still, I got to hand it to that guy. He knew how to break an act.
Yeah.
So what happens at Sony?
So Michael's saying there's a big announcement at Mushroom. You should stay, and we ummed and ahed, and sort of did our for and against, and we ended up going signing with Sony.
Yeah.
And then Paul Batico's management company, who started Powderfinger and a few bands at that stage, I think, something for Kate, not from there, a few other bands.
Paul Batico, well known.
Yeah. Well, they came on board and like I said, they'd manage us.
Yeah.
And that was the start of that would have been the peak of everything if you could do it in a graph, and then you just see the line plummet after all that.
Is that because you hadn't recorded new material yet, so you didn't have stuff to drop on the market?
We went and recorded, but the first thing Sony wanted to do was re-release things that had already been done.
Yeah, crazy.
Off our debut album. They wanted to re-release any day, and we went, that's been done independently. It did really well.
Yeah.
And they said, we think it's a commercial hit. And we said, well, we don't really care about commercial hits.
Yeah.
But which you shouldn't say to someone like Sony. That's what I was thinking. Shit, we're a bit out of our depth here.
Yeah.
So they re-recorded, remixed Any Day with Kevin Shirley in America and redid the film clip.
Yeah.
We already had a film clip. It was already mixed. They redid all that and then presented to commercial radio. And commercial radio said, we've already heard this and we didn't play it then. So
remember, let's remind everybody listening, every step of the way there, it would have been recoupable. The video would have been 50% recoupable. But who cares? Because back then we were spending big money on videos.
Correct.
Right? So you're in debt to the hilt already.
And I didn't even know how much debt I was getting in because along the way, Sony were also flying us to Sydney just for the day to meet people and that sort of thing.
It's all recoupable.
Taking us out to dinner at the Iguana Bar and buying all sorts of things, which I all found later on our bill.
Yeah. Interestingly, if the only way it should be recoupable if it was towards recording. If it was for marketing and promo, that's not recoupable and that's their cost. But I'll guarantee you, they were putting those airfares onto recording budget.
They put everything on. Yeah, they did, and I didn't know that.
It's criminal, my friend, criminal. And that is the big corporate world of the in the music business of the majors. They live to support the upper echelons of the executive level in those companies.
Yeah,
you're just dirt, and the musicians that are making the dollars for them to sustain their living and lifestyle, just get thrown, to the wolves when they're finished with you. Yeah. So you're at Sony and things aren't going too good, are they?
See, before I left Mushroom, there were people like, Eleanor McKay, who, people that rang me and she worked for Dennis for years as his right-hand woman.
Yeah.
And
I know Eleanor well.
Yeah. So she said, Sean, I'm just telling you this, you can take my advice on it. She said, these people will eat you up and they're not people of their word. And she gave me all these warnings. She said, I'm not saying this so you stay at Mushroom. I'm just saying so you know.
Yeah.
And I ignored quite a few people that said things like that. And then one day I was having a drink with one of the Melbourne A&R guy, Dave Warner.
Oh, yeah, Dave Warner, yeah.
In South Melbourne, and my phone rang. And it was John O'Donnell, who's head of Australian Arts division at Sony. And he said, can I please speak to Dave? So I said, yeah, no worries. He said, I believe you're with him. So I gave Dave the phone and I just saw this look on Dave's face and he handed me the phone back and he said, I just got sacked. I said, what? And he said, yeah, John O'Donnell just said.
Don't you love that? Think about exactly what you just said. Imagine firing someone like that today. I'd have you up on unfair dismissal claims and I'd be suing the shit out of you.
Yep. And
how dare you do it over the phone then? And on your phone,
over my phone. And not only that, he said, I want you to go back now and clear your desk because we've got people coming down from head office and we don't want to see you there. And he said, when? 2 weeks? He said, no, now, today.
Yeah, fantastic.
And when that happened, I just felt like there was an axe swinging over everyone's head the whole time, and I realised that that's how everyone in that office sort of feels.
Yeah.
And that's what they do to try and, they think that they're getting productivity out of people.
I've heard that story many times, by the way, not about you, about all other artists. And, you're championing A&R man in the company at that time gets sacked. That's it. You're finished. All right.
And there was 2 of them championing us, and that's what you need in a record company, and that's what I worked out.
Yeah.
And at Mushroom, everyone would do that because it was so much more of a friendly atmosphere.
Yeah, well, it's a more a family atmosphere.
It was much more, and because I was managing, then I was going in there and I knew everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I mean, look, that
was our decision to leave that.
I know Michael better than anybody, all right? 'Cause I worked so closely with him, with Phil Jacobson and whatever. There is the good points and there's the shocking points, mate. So
of course.
He's no different. He's still a businessman. Okay, the Sony thing, that's it? Is that where it falls apart?
No, what happened after that was we then recorded our first album for Sony.
Right, which is called?
Which was, it actually never came out. And that's why we released it not long ago as the one that never came out.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because on the eve of mixing it, went to Sydney.
Yeah.
We had our producer, Keith Cleversley, flown in from America. He was in his hotel room. We had 301 booked the next day, all ready to mix.
Yeah.
And our manager
to mix.
arrived.
So you'd recorded it. You just had
We
mixed it.
recorded it all. We recorded it. Took several sessions. Took ages. And I spent a fortune on it. And our manager arrived at our hotel room and said, "We've got to go for a drink." And we're like, "What's going on?" He said, "I was talking about recording tomorrow." And then he hits us with, "You've been dropped."
I mean,
without even doing the record for them.
That's fantastic.
And we said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, John O'Donnell got back from America last week, and he was told that anyone without a track record or that hadn't made money in the last financial year, just draw a line through them." So 50 acts to drop.
That's fantastic. So you've got this recording. So does it get mixed? Does it get mixed?
No, it never gets mixed.
Right. Okay. So that's
so with Laneway, we released. There's desk mixers. They're just Wayne Connolly just mixes off the desk.
Yeah, gotcha. So never gets mixed. You've been dropped, and you think
I've been dropped. I get in my car at 4 a.m. because I just can't. My head's just like spinning, and I drive back to Melbourne, just going, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. So what happens?
Well, they basically own us and all of our material, and then we get a bill for $430,000.
Yeah.
And I go to our Paul O'Gorman, our lawyer, and he said, "Yep, they're in breach of contract, but what are you going to do? Take one of the biggest multinationals in the world to court?"
Yeah.
And I was absolutely furious. I was like, "Yes, let's fight them." And
well, funny you would say that, because yes, obviously they were in breach, and I had a similar situation. If you ever remember the band, the Slow Club, and the Slow Club.
I remember that. Yeah, I do.
They had like one top 20 hit, and we had the guitarist from the band Japan in there, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, they got dropped by Virgin because Virgin got bought by EMI. I think it was EMI. Then they signed Andrew, the singer, and we're off recording and doing everything. That's right. No, it was still Virgin. Dropped the Slow Club, and he's recording, and the same situation. They get bought by EMI. They go, "Right, you're dropped." And at the time, I was very good friends with a lawyer called Bruno Charlesworth. He goes, that's not on. They've broken their agreement.
That's breach, yeah.
Yeah, and he goes, let's take them to court. And I said, well, Andrew doesn't have any money. He goes, that's okay. We'll do it pro bono. So we took him to court, and we won. And but he only got like $10,000. And
they offered us $20,000 to leave.
Right.
And Paul said, in my opinion, I'd just pay the $20,000 to go. And I
would too.
Yeah. If they'd released that, if they'd mixed, I don't know why they spent so much tracking it. Why not mix it, see how it goes? But they're so ruthless, as I'd seen with what happened to Dave over the phone. It's like when they say, no, put a line through it, then everyone goes.
So you just took the 20. I know I would have taken the $20,000 too. Did you take the $20,000?
We took the $20,000.
Yeah, good. Yep. And off you go. So now you're on your own again. You're pretty well a seasoned musician when you think about all of that. You're a really seasoned musician who knows what the business is like. Well, what are you going to do, Sean?
Well, with that contract as well, I should add, which is pretty funny, that I got the bill, like I said, then all the flights, the lunches, everything was on there. Yeah. I'm like, what the hell?
What?
$430,000, and then it said that they agreed to the contract that I have to pay it back 5 cents in the dollar for the rest of my life.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then it was like 2 cents in the dollar after I'm dead or something.
Yeah,
it was just some ridiculous no one polices it or anything, but then I just started writing things for myself.
But was Violetine? Yeah, but hold on. Was Violetine still going, or
no,
did you just? That was it.
That was yeah. Well,
so you and Glenn got together, and you go, "That's it.
We argued. It tore us apart.
Yeah, gotcha.
We'd been through lots of things, different lineup changes and companies, and self management and all that, and that was just it got a bit much.
Okay. So it stops there. Do you take a break for a year or two?
Well, no, I just kept writing, which probably,
But did you play live, though? Did you take a break from playing live?
No. I actually went up to Byron and by myself and just took my 4-track and just started writing songs.
Did you play live, though, anywhere?
Yeah, a little bit afterwards.
Yeah. Okay.
With with Andy Strachan, who's the Living End drummer now. We started a bit of a band for a little while.
Yeah. Okay, so I know the band. So She's the Driver eventuates. Whether that's just you, but you've put an alter ego together. She's the Driver. Yeah.
Yeah, it was me playing just a guitar that went through 2 amps, a bass amp and a guitar amp originally.
Yeah, but then you put a trio together. We're back to the trio because
we did it as 2 of us for 2 or 3 albums.
Yeah, you and the bass player, or you and the drummer?
No, just me and the drummer.
Yeah,
and then when I met you, and then that's when the bass player started playing with us.
And then look, for everybody listening, it was I found it a weird time because I couldn't connect with She's the Driver. It's not.
Yeah, you should revisit our first record.
Yeah,
that was my very first thing after we did, and it was mixed by Greg Wales. And then everything after that was actually me learning to record. I did it all out. I was just over everyone and everything. So
because
that's when
because I know the Violetine stuff so well because we played with it so many times. But but then I went, no, I can't. You know what I found, Sean, is She's the Driver didn't have its own identity.
I was just anti everything. So.
Yeah, and it pretty well comes out.
And I didn't care about I put so much into what I'd done previously. Yeah. It's almost like I didn't want anyone to like us.
Yeah.
Probably might not make sense to people, but I just wanted to just do what I wanted to do.
But you were pretty prolific, though. I mean, there's a lot of quite a few She the Driver records. So
yeah,
you're pretty prolific.
Stopped writing.
Yeah, so and
there's some good songs amongst them.
I'll have another listen today. I'm going to go through those because I consider Violetine didn't actually have any bad songs. Not that there's a lot. Let's put it together. There's probably 2 albums and 2 EPs and a couple of singles.
You've got to also remember with Violetine there were 2 of us writing, and that having that luxury, it was, and that's what made, stamped out a lot of the.
I think it stamps out
it
stamps out the ego because I was talking to another musician the other day who sent me a new track and I said, that's a beautiful track. I said, but it needs some texture in it. And he said, what do you think? I said, well, why don't you do this, this and this? And he's gone away and he's doing it, whatever. I think if you're on your own, you sit there and go, well, I don't think that sounds okay. And you can never ask your friends, what do you think of the song? Because you know the answer.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's the best thing you've ever written. That's all bullshit.
I'd never thought of it that way, but that is true because we used to. We used to just filter each other all the time when there was 2 of us writing.
Well, there's no bad songs. The Violetine material, there isn't any bad tracks. Yeah. They're all good tracks. So we go through She's the Driver, then
which is me experimenting a lot and being self-indulgent as well, and also learning to record at the same time. So my head was in a lot of places, but I just kept writing ideas and.
Well, that comes to an end. Well, that comes to an end, right? And you kind of go, that part of my life in music, I've finished there because I thought one day, I think you said to me, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And I go, oh, what are you going to do? You go,
you got to know when something's over. Maybe I should have,
whatever.
On an album left, but it is what it is.
Exactly. And then I remember you going, have a listen to this. I've been working on some new stuff. I think it was acoustically. I went, oh, that sounds fantastic. I said, that's great. And you go, yeah, I'm thinking. So there was that kind of happening, but then it never happened. Then the next thing I knew, you go, I'm recording something completely new. I'm using Andy too.
Yeah.
I got my partner, the Real White Stripes thing, Alicia, involved.
Yeah.
I thought, well, that's good because there's this, you could already see that there was this, is a kind of little family kind of forming. And then when I heard the material, I think it's the best material you've written in, it'd be 15 years since Violetine, that's for sure, longer, 20 years.
Yeah, probably longer.
20 years. And
I don't like thinking about it.
And this is the best material you've written since then, I personally think. And each track is a really good track. Of course, we're in a new...
Well, we didn't sit down and do the band thing, and it was just I was actually recording other bands, the bands I have on the label, Fuzz Rays and Buzz and the Pickup, and these young bands, and then they would leave after a day, and Alicia and I would sit there and I just put ideas down. So it wasn't like this forced effort to try and do a record or anything. It was just when we had time, and it was just enjoyable.
And I think you're in control because even from the videos, you can bring Andy in. or it's just you two, you're in control, and I think I can see you're a lot more relaxed in what you're doing. I can actually feel it when I talk to you. You're a lot more relaxed. And
I'm not trying to do anything, so...
and I think if we talk a little bit about what you think about the industry now, because I get the usual. Oh, it was so good then, physical product and digital's shit, and you get ripped off. Well, mate, I'll rip you off with physical. I was explaining this the other day to someone to say, well, if you're on 18%, some of them are on 13% of wholesale. Then I go, what's the wholesale price? Now, remember, I had to do all this. What's the wholesale price? Well, the full wholesale price used to be like $12.96, and that's when it just came out. And if it wasn't successful, within 6 months, I'd be selling that off for $4.95 wholesale or $4.96, and then I'll take 18% of that, and you're getting about 69 cents.
10 cents.
Yeah, exactly. And then you put your costs on top of that. Now,
that's why what you've done, I think what you've done has come along at a really great time for a lot of, sort of older Australian artists, because there's this big, I remember with even things like Airplay, like Triple Dre, and we did one single with Sony, and it was a little bit of but a lot of people understood it because it sped up and slowed down. That song Crush.
Oh, yeah, Crush.
And it wasn't taking off like Sony wanted and that sort of thing. That was the one single we did with them. That was our, like a new song.
Yeah.
And when people like that have supported you for a long time all of a sudden don't, you're left in a bit of this wasteland. If that was your crowd and your audience, then it's almost like no one knows what you're doing.
No, that's right.
So I think for a few, a lot of Australian artists that sort of was for a while, but now it's sort of changing around with things like you're doing, and making people feel relevant again.
Well, if you it's trying to educate a lot of musicians too, and I've had to educate myself because I'm no young guy. I'm 62, so. There's no, very difficult even to talk to bands in their 40s who go, well, what can you bring? And I go, well, hold on, what are your expectations? And because I'm waiting for them to hear, well, we want to break as an act. And, I don't want to have to laugh because that's not going to we have to realise that unless we're an established act and had commercial success, there is no way you are going to break an act in their 40s. It's not going to happen.
Correct.
The system, it's not me, the system doesn't allow it. And because we're in a new digital world, those young people, let's think Buzz and the Pickups and the Fuzz Rays, and anybody in their early 20s, they know how to viral their own music. Their fans do it instinctively. And so
it's so true.
Yeah, we don't have that. So,
No, you have to modify your expectations too, which I've done, and you've got to be happy. And at the end of the day,
Well, I think you look at your video.
What you want out of it.
If you look at your video at the moment, Sean, which is Glam Fan, and you have a look at what it's doing, it's starting to get around 1,000 streams a day on the video.
Yeah.
The audio, I'm not quite sure where that's at. And that's a lot more difficult because we've got to try and get it on playlists. Radio doesn't exist in any form, community or anything. It doesn't exist to give you any stream. So we've got to try and get it on playlists. But the video is doing quite well. And on those kind of figures, I would suspect the video will do 20 or 30,000 streams. And there's an impetus there. It starts off, but what I do have to say to artists all the time is, can't be Laneway doing everything. We just can't because it's too,
you got to do your part.
It's too bland. They know that, well, you're not the actual artist, and you, the artist, have to be involved. Now, if you don't do social media, which a lot of artists don't, that's where it sits.
I don't.
Right? I know you don't, and that's where it sits, and you go with that. And trying to do live shows is near impossible. For the older artists, there's the established older artists. So if you were to do a Violetine show, you'll get punters there. If it's the new band where the kill sounds, well, you won't because people go, well, who are they, right?
I know, but I'm happy just creating and having it be able to put out there because I also a lot of my time these days, more time spent is doing young bands, and I never thought I'd get so much enjoyment out of recording. I used to sit there with producers and go, how can you listen to my song 3,000 times over, and how can you and you get I get that enjoyment of doing my own things out of helping produce young bands. So,
I think that's come out in your music in this new album that will culminate in an album by the end of the year. Is you can actually feel that there's a more relaxed approach to the music. It's more organic. There's a lot of texture and colour in the music. I love having, seen the videos with Alicia there. It blends nicely.
I've got some of those young guys playing on songs as well later on in the album.
Yeah, fantastic. And so, I think that the next couple of albums for you are just going to be sensational. There'll be classics for you anyway, because I can already see it in what you're doing now. And
stop putting pressure on me.
Well, no, there's a bit of a change. There's a bit of a change in from what you've done in the last 15 years to back to what Violetine was. And that's where I kind of see it.
I did. I tried to get away from that for a long time.
I would imagine you would have. Yeah. But you can't get away from good music, and Violetine sounds as good today as it did back then, and that's a real test, isn't it?
Yeah.
To try and do that.
It's funny because everyone talks about the late '90s sound and stuff, and at the time it wasn't like there was a conscious thought that anyone thought we were sounding like that. But then when you listen back, a lot of the acts we were playing with, there's just is a real particular sound.
It's a quintessential Australian indie sound of the late 90s. There's no doubt about it. It's very unique to Australia.
Yeah.
I think you're American, and so, if you had your time again and I was there, I'd go, right, pack your bags. You got to go and live in America for 12 months, and it's
we got
tough.
we got offered by bands to go. You get yourselves over here, and Buffalo Tom to get yourself over here.
Yep.
We'll take you on tour. There's a few bands that offered that sort of thing.
And look, at the time, I know they're hard. I get it. They're hard decisions at the time, really difficult because you got to pack up and just go. But
come up with the money.
Yeah, in this business, that's what you have to do. And you can't, I say this in the nicest possible way to artists, you can't have girlfriends or a wife or kids. You cannot, not at that stage, because it is all the music. That comes later. And I think you guys would have really broken in the States, and it would have, just taken tour after tour. But remember, you go to the States, you can do 52 dates continuously.
Look, I've so many friends that have been over and lived there and tried that, and some have done well. Living End did pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely, they did.
Super Jesus did not so well.
No. Well, we spent a lot of money.
Powderfinger, they didn't. No one.
No.
We were with Powderfinger's management. Paul Patico rented an office there, slept on the couch for like years trying to break Powderfinger. No one ever understood them over there.
No, that's right. We sent Jimmy Barnes over, back in the day. We spent a fortune, and we couldn't get a crack.
I remember they didn't get it.
Yeah, couldn't get a cracker going. And, everybody say Michael was always after the big number one in America. Well, he was, but I'm telling you, I sat in the room with him and we chuckled about it many times, where it wasn't going to happen, right? And we knew it wasn't going to happen because they were against you over there. They weren't going to let a label from down under come in and have a number one hit in America. That wasn't going to be allowed, I can tell you.
No, but even if you can find a niche there, there's so much scope for touring for a long time over there.
Yeah, huge when you can do that. So
But I think we're sorry.
On. Yeah, well, I was going to say go on, continue.
While you were talking before, like even in Australia, I think because we had one album that did well, we needed, if we had two or three, then we'd be able to still do like, Spiderbait and Magic Dirt, all those bands do go out now and still have that that sort of fan base. But one record wasn't enough for people in Australia.
No, look, I doing an interview with Ken from the Rifles, and he said that they should have just moved to America and stayed there. They did quite a few shows in America and quite a lot of shows in Europe, but there wasn't a consistency, and they made every mistake in the book, and management was a problem. Everything, it would always culminate in a disaster in the end.
Yeah.
Whereas again, you would have thought that they would have been the real college circuit kind of band, but as he said, well, no, that was the Hoodoo Gurus, because
college circuit.
Yeah. The Hoodoo Gurus took that over, and did so well over there with it. But and Hunters actually did really well also. But it's luck of the draw, and you know, and it's the decisions you make at the time. But
yeah.
But, you know, I think with everything you're doing now at the moment, Sean, it's fantastic. We're really excited about the new
Thank
music. You. And I think even the quality of the videos that you're making, this ability to make your own videos, is just fantastic.
Thanks.
Adds a whole
I've only
new
just
dimension.
started that.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying that.
Isn't that interesting that, you know, it was something that was 20 years ago unheard of.
Yeah.
There's not a hope of putting your own video together. If it was, it'd be so amateurish. You know, you'd be a bit... You know, kind of go, no, I don't really want that to come out.
Well, even recording, because like the last Violetine recording was on 2-inch tape.
Yeah.
And we were in that whole transition period, you know.
Yeah.
I remember sitting even, you know, with Paul McKercher, who's producer, and he doesn't know how to use Pro Tools at that stage. And now everyone, you know, is all over it and has to do that. But we were just in that stage where you had to spend money.
Well, think about it.
Couldn't be as self-sufficient as you can now.
Well, Sing Sing got sold to Box Hill TAFE. Now Sing Sing, the old Platinum, which was Sing Sing South, is finishing up because the lease is all over. So Kai is selling off everything there. And so, you know, there isn't any really big studios like that left here. It's individual, single operators. And in Sydney, you got 301s, but that's owned by whoever that school is, the guy that owns the school.
Yeah,
you know,
there's one in Byron.
Yeah, you know, it's really becoming everybody I talk to are starting to learn how to do it all themselves because it gives you the flexibility to do it when you feel right about it. It's not forced. So if I've got a vibe at any time, 2 a.m, I can go up and I can put the track down or put my idea down. And then
we used to have to go in with everything finished. If you didn't like your vocal take, you have to book again. You know, if you didn't have enough time, it was there was a lot of
what about what about pre-production? Well, there's another 20 grand.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
another thing. Well, that's another thing. Sony got us to do pre-production with Jim Miljoen for Midnight Oil.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that went on the bill of, I can't even know much. Imagine a really good studio with us and Jim for, you know, 7 or 10 days sitting there, which, you know, it was great working with him, but it didn't really change our songs that much. But just whack another 30 grand on the bill.
Oh, look, you know, I remember going to Rhino Studios back in the day, you know, which In Excess owned in Sydney. It was the Taj Mahal of studios, and you were talking 2 to 3 grand a day. That was your daily rate. I mean, at AAV, we were paying $1,200 to $2,000 a day at AAV here in Melbourne. I mean, that's huge dollars when you think, well, we'll book in for 60 days or even for 30 days. You know, and that's without your engineer and the producer, right? Because you get an assistant, but you want to pick your own engineer, so that's costs on top, and just crazy figures.
It's another $1,000 a day.
You know, and then I think about what you can produce out of your studio and the sound you can get out of that small studio, and I think, well, to me that sounds world class. You know, it just sounds good. So yeah, I think it's a different world. But anyway, it's been fantastic catching up with you, Sean, and actually finding out about Violetine. You know. And we look forward to a lot of new product. Everybody listening, We Are The Kill Sounds is the new product from Sean. And there's essentially we release a new song nearly every month for the rest of the year. Okay, Sean, it's great talking to you. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Vincent.
See you, mate. Bye.
See ya. Bye.